Alright, Kiana, let's look at your paper. Emily format first, so this is good. You need to have the actual class name here, so finish that. I see you didn't change your title. Yes, it's still weak. I still don't like it. I mean, is it clever wording? Sure, but it has nothing to do with the topic of your paper. Alright, so it's amazing what the paranoid mind can do to itself. I would use an exclamation point, but even with that, you basically jump right into the topic. And then you have this statement, which is probably a major understatement. I'm sure they wouldn't just say it's not the easiest thing to live with. I'm sure it's a terrible, awful thing to live with. So you need to work on that. I like that it's slowly tearing itself apart. And this is where I'm getting lost. So you list all these things that are symptoms of people with paranoid schizophrenia. So a couple things with this. Number one, you didn't cite where you got it from since you had to have looked that up. Number two, eventually I need to know what your main points are. And it's pretty unclear what your main points are going to be because I know not all of these are your main points. It affects the people around him, which I think you'd want to move this up here. It causes serious delusions, which I'm assuming is one of your main points. This leads to agitation when no one around Macbeth knows what he is talking about. So are your main points that it affects people around him, it causes delusions and agitation? I don't know. It's not really clear. This is a good thesis statement, except I would love to see you kind of wrap in the idea of his downfall somehow in there, because he takes this immoral path to become more powerful. He's ultimately destroyed, something along those lines, okay? So rework that introduction a little bit better. Alright, so this is about physically or emotionally reserved, which I would agree that his feeling towards his wife would fit into that. You don't need the period in these citations either. So you use how he feels about his wife. They're numb and detached from others, as well as very distant from their emotions. Don't use the word very. They're distant from their emotions. Now, this almost seems like a different symptom here. Little or no concern for others' emotions and feelings. I don't know if that doesn't seem like, physically or emotionally reserved. He's definitely not physically reserved, okay? I could see he's emotionally being reserved because of Lady Macbeth, but the idea of showing little or no concern for others' emotions is a good main point, but I don't think it fits into this paragraph unless you rewrite this topic sentence to kind of encompass the idea of their feelings towards others. I think is basically what you'd want to talk about with your topic. Alright, so he slaughters Macduff's family. Most people would feel great guilt of this inhumanity, no comma, but not Macbeth. You get into the thesis statement, which is good. This immoral thing that he's doing, no comma, and not caring that he is doing so. So I like that you're diving into the thesis. That's good. Here's where I'm not sure what's going on. They're forced to deal with disconnected and nonsensical language that renders the person with schizophrenia incapable of participating in conversation. What does that have anything to do with Macbeth? I don't even know how it's tied in not only to Macbeth but your symptom up here. It doesn't seem like it's, you talk about his alienation from society, but then you don't talk about where in the play that makes sense. This is a really weak transitional statement that you'd want to fix as well. So this whole end part of this paragraph, I'm not exactly sure where it's going. This also seems like you got this information from somewhere else. And if I did research off to the side, yes, it is from somewhere else. Okay, you can't see it, but trust me, it's over here. Okay, so that is straight up copied and pasted from another source. Now, here's the interesting part that I think I saw about your paper. So through the rest of the paper, you don't have any more in-text citations. Yet down here, you have 4 different sources listed. So you only, I think, had this one as your out. So you do this source twice. You have Shakespeare in there, but these other 2 you don't even mention. So obviously we have problems with plagiarism for one. This is Kiana straight up plagiarism. Any college would see that as plagiarism. We have straight up plagiarism problems for one, and then obviously citation problems for the second. Now your second paragraph seems to be delusions of grandeur, which again you'd want to transition to up here, so make sure you do that. But again, is it clear in your introduction that this is where we're going? Alright, so delusions of grandeur, which is fine, but again, no outside source. I'm assuming this is a straight up quote from outside source. So you need an outside citation. Okay, it's not simply arrogance, and I would love for you to talk about that false impression of their own importance. He's more powerful than everyone else around him. He decides to kill McDuff's family. When he does, he doesn't care about how their death affects McDuff. Well, I wouldn't think so. But that sounds like almost up here, this idea of not knowing other people's emotions. I would think your delusions of grandeur would revolve around him at the end and how he doesn't care that people are fleeing him. He doesn't care that he's about ready to die when McDuff reveals that he was born from C-section. Yet that to me is more delusions of grandeur than just when he orders people to die and doesn't care about them. And again, no remorse or fear of consequence. I don't know. It just doesn't work right now. This is when he strays from the moral path and becomes violent and impulsive. So here's a good transition statement. But you also in this paragraph didn't dive at all into your thesis other than right here, other than to say he strays from the moral path. You got to, how does this symptom relate to the moral path? Keep tying those two together at the end of your body paragraph. And look at how short. This is a short paragraph. This is a short paragraph. This is a short paragraph. You got room to add some more stuff in here. All right, so we're going to talk about violent behavior. Now, as the play continues, he decides to behave more violently, and then your next one is violent tendencies are also symptoms Macbeth shows. Now, this would be technically be your topic sentence, but actually be both of these kind of combined. The idea that he behaves more violently, which shows he's not thinking about what he's doing, maybe something along those lines. When he decides to listen to Lady Macbeth and kill Duncan, no comma, no very, but his violent behavior is not listening, and I don't know. You need to tie this in a little bit better. And he kills the guards, which I think that plays into it as well. But again, you're just getting into plot. They get in a sword fight when he discovers that Macbeth is the one whose hands hold the blood. I like this concept. But again, how does this deal with violently? Because Macduff is the one that cuts off his head. So I would more focus on the whole killing Macduff's family, killing Banquo and Fleance as his violent behaviors. He also talks about when at the end he says, "Hang anybody that talks of fear," or something like that. I mean, that's kind of a violent behavior too, so you could add that in there. Here's one thing that I noticed, though. You only have one quote from the play as well. So not only do you have no in-text citation after the first paragraph for any of your symptoms, but you have no quotes from the play. And that is going to hurt you as well. And that's a sentence fragment. You need a transition statement as well. All right, now we come to the part of the essay where you probably didn't know where you wanted to go and you're just trying to finish it because you're lacking a lot of stuff in here. All right, he begins to get anxious and agitated again. Here's your symptom, but it's not a strong topic sentence. And all of this is literally just plot from the play. There's nothing from outside source about the symptom, other than maybe this, but okay. Now, is anxious and agitated. He's going back into hallucinations, which you kind of already touched on. No comma here. You use the word no one 3 times in the last 2 sentences. And again, there's no connection to the thesis. It's nothing about his immoral path. So I think he just kind of lost steam with what to do at the end there. So this paragraph obviously needs a lot of work. And you're obviously short on length as well. So in your conclusion, you restate your thesis, which I would actually argue this kind of needs to be included in it as well, and you go over all your main points, but this is really not a good clincher, so you're missing a really good clincher at the end here. So combine this with this and then come up with a better clincher. Works cited is fine. You wouldn't have a comma after November, and more than likely this author is supposed to be author of the website, not author of just of what you looked at. And I would argue that these are not the most reliable, reputable sources either. I won't completely mark you down for them, but I just don't think they're more reliable. So, Kiana, a lot of work to do. Hopefully we'll see a rewrite out of you.